is on a deck that we've seen a lot of this weekend, Esper Blade.
He is. So his list, again, we know there are a couple different flavors of Esper. He is playing with Geist of St. Draft, which is going to be very bad actually in this matchup because Merfolk clogs the ground with guys who are bigger than 2/2. So this is not a spot where you really want to be on Geists, but the rest of his deck is well set up to battle against Merfolk. For instance, he has 3 Inquisition Kozileks and 2 Thoughtseizes. Typically you see the reverse. Here, every spell in the deck that matters out of Merfolk gets picked off by those Inquisitions, so it's nice not to have to pay those 2 life points. So that's going to be good for early disruption. And we also have the trump of Batterskull, which is really the nightmare. That's why Merfolk fell out of popularity. It was a tremendously popular deck in Legacy, let's say 3 years ago. I actually lost to it when against Saito in my first Legacy tournament. I had no idea what I was doing the first time I ever played against the deck and realized this deck's really quite good.
That was the finals of the Grand Prix, the Legacy Grand Prix in
Columbus. And then I played against it a couple times in the next tournament, playing with Esper as well, and then I had Batterskulls, and made the world of difference.
So it looks like Anthony starts off the game with a turn 1 Thoughtseizes, revealing Ben Lundquist's hands of a Spell Pierce, Dismember, 2 Curse Catchers, 2 Islands, and a Mutavault.
That's an awkward hand
for Ben.
Very
awkward hand, yeah.
I almost think that might even be a mulligan. No Lords puts him pretty far behind. I don't know if he knows what he's playing against. That hand's probably pretty resilient against combo decks.
Yeah.
And therefore, maybe he wants, in order to balance his range of what he can be playing against, he keeps it. Because if he's playing against something like Teps, he's going to be in great shape.
Although Eason and Ben kind of know each other, so I'd be surprised if Ben had no idea what Anthony was playing. So, a strange keep. Yeah, you're right. With no Lords there, it's kind of a pretty weak hand, especially to this matchup. But turn 2 Stoneforge comes down. Ben did draw Force of Will, so he can counter that if he chooses to.
And I think he's certainly going to. Yeah, that was a huge draw for Ben there. It was... The game's going to get out of hand basically immediately if he didn't have that.
Yeah, kind of unlucky for Anthony. I mean, obviously, he was able to Thoughtseize the turn before. Didn't see the Force of Will. Ben got a lucky draw right there. Anthony wasn't aware that it wasn't actually clear. But here comes one of the signature cards of the deck's Aether Vial. Very powerful in this deck because of the redundancies in the casting cost.
And now here we see Anthony, now that he lost that Stoneforge, not a lot going on.
Yeah, not a lot of gas.
That was really his plan.
He has a Geist of St. Trap, but he doesn't have a 3rd mana. He does, I believe he has a Snapcaster Mage and a Swords of Plowshares. So, but again, not a lot of mana. Those Curse Catchers can be a problem if he keeps stalling on lands.
And if a Lord shows up for Ben, it's going to be a lot of damage quickly.
Yeah,
and interesting.
Ben's in a very good shape because basically, short of a land, any card he draws is pretty much gas in this position.
Yep. Anthony goes in and gets his Swords of Plowshares Curse Cut.
I mean, to be honest, even Ben has 8 lands that are even that bad to draw. He has 4 Wastelands or 4 Mutavaults, 3 left in his deck. So even if he draws one of those lands, it's still pretty good. Wasteland would be great. Unfortunately, it looks like he drew an island this turn. So still, Anthony still has, even though he's stalling on lands, the fact that Ben isn't able to put that much more pressure on and press his advantage, Anthony still has a chance.
But unfortunately, another. I'm surprised actually that turn that we didn't see the Snapcaster Mage show up just as an Ambush Viper and try to block the Mutavault.
Looks like Anthony with the second.
Jeez, and Ben drew a Daze.
Wow. So pretty good turn for Ben there. Again, Anthony still has another Snapcaster Mage in his hand. Now finally gets the 3rd mana, but decides to just pass the turn rather than playing the Geist.
And as you look at Snapcaster, flashback that Swords of Plowshares instead of playing his Geist of St. Draft. Ben did not this time draw, feels like a 6th straight answer card. He'll actually get to cast that Swords now on the Mutavault.
I believe Ben just has lands in his hand, one of them being a Mutavault, probably.
And here he could Curse Catch it, but then it'll just trade with the Snapcaster. Either way the board empties, might as well gain the 2nd life point and let the Swords of Plowshares resolve.
Yeah. If Ben drew a Lord here, it'd be great, but I don't believe he has anything in his hand.
If he's violating any Lord, there would have been backbreaking for Anthony.
So, considering a block here, just a Mutavault there. So Anthony might be able to play a Geist now.
Certainly will. Yeah, he'll play Geist here. We'll probably just choose to trade with that Mutavault if he gets the chance to.
Oh, Regerie comes down. Wow,
that's big.
So, thankfully for Eason, Ben doesn't have 3 counters on that vial, otherwise he would have been blown out. Now at least he knows what to expect. So still not the worst shape. I believe Anthony does have a Jace in his hand. If he draws a 4th hand, maybe that can get... Oh, Vindicate.
That's even better. So, certainly the Jace wouldn't do too much since now that Ben knows he has a Regerie around, he'll up that Aether Vial.
Yeah.
But Vindicate will take care of the Lord problem he has, and then he can again try to trade with that. with that Mutavault.
Yeah, would you vindicate the Mutavault, or would you just go after the Lord?
I think you have to go after the Lord. I mean, sure, if he draws another Lord, it's bad either way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not certain. The problem here, so if he draws like a Silvergill Adept, or actually no one else.
Because he can't tap the Geist. A Lord would allow him to power through the Regery.
I didn't expect this.
Yeah, so it looks like he might be going after the land here. It certainly makes his Jace the Mind Sculptor better if he does go after the land.
Yep, he does choose to do that. The Jace maybe is what's pushing in that direction.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I think, you know, again, Anthony might feel he's just too far behind. He needs to try to get a little aggressive here.
He's only at 4 life. He's dead in 2 turns. Just that Lord by itself. He's not going to win that race.
But again, if he draws a Jace, he's in good shape. He basically needs. Oh
Not
wow,
anymore.
that's a huge draw for Ben there. Again, it's another land, but it was the right land this time. So
that force not going to do a lot here.
Now with an Aether Violet too. So short of a Regery, Ben should be able to vial anything he needs into play. Oh, and there's the Lord.
So not even going to choose the chump block.
Yeah, doesn't even bother.
So he had no islands. So the island walk actually did not matter in that spot.
Perhaps he just figured, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to do anything anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a Terminus in his list, which is really the only out he had available at that point.
No Wrath effects. So Anthony loses the first game. A little land light, despite the fact that Ben kind of flooded out towards the middle. Anthony just wasn't able to take advantage because he just kept stalling on land.
So looking at the sideboards here, Anthony has very little that's going to help him. The critical card that you really want here is Supreme Verdict, which is the best card you can get in Esper against the Merfolk deck, because they have to put a lot of guys in play because of the Lord effect stacking. But he has 0 copies of that in his 75. He does have a Detention Sphere, and he does have a another Thoughtseize and an Engineered Explosives, all of which will come in. But lacking those verdicts are going to be unfortunate here, and probably board out those Geists because they really don't do a lot in this matchup.
Yeah. And coming out of Ben's sideboard, he has 1 Cure Great Glass Spinner. Probably more against Jund decks, against Punishing Fire decks. I mean, again, it's not very good against Abrupt Decay, but there's not much you can do against a Punishing Fire Jund list with Merfolk.
Right. It's certainly good here. I mean, shutting off Swords of Plowshares, Fizzling Jace Bounces, definitely useful. Yeah,
so maybe just ticking up your Aether Violet to 3, suddenly you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it could be pretty powerful. 3 copies of Relic Progenitus, probably not coming in this matchup. 3 copies of Submerge, no. 2 Echoing Truth, probably not needed in this matchup. I mean, you have Detention Sphere, but again, really nothing else. 1 copy of Gilded Drake, 1 copy of Hydroblast, 1 copy of Spell Pierce, 1 Needle, 1 Jetée, and 1 Phantasmal Image. It's interesting here with the Phantasmal Image and the Jetée. You think he brings in both copies in order to copy the Stoneforge?
Yep, exactly. That's one of the primary plans that they have here, is to do that. I mean, Image in general, being able to piggyback on Lords is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
So I think you want the Image for sure, and if you're doing that, you get kind of bringing the Jit for free. You get to cancel out Anthony's Jit. It's one of the best cards against you. So you don't want to get, you don't want to get caught underneath that. So I think that's certainly going to be his plan there.
You think Standstill comes out when you're on the draw against a deck like Stoneforge, or you think you still keep it in?
You still have just the nut draw of Aether Violet and Standstill, which is a big part of your plan. I don't hate cutting a couple of them,
but even Aether Violet on Standstill, that would still probably get trumped by Stoneforge Batterspell, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't have a Dismember that you draw off of the. But when you get to draw those 3 cards off of the Stoneforge, I guess you are on the draw. So
if you're on the draw,
first,
So I think Standstill on the draw might be a little. He might consider boarding the Standstills out. I mean, again, Spell Pierce is another card. Do you think Spell Pierce is really something you want?
Pretty mediocre, especially on the draw. If you can't turn off the turn 1, if you can't fight the turn 1 Thoughtseize, the turn 1 Inquisition, not doing a whole lot in this matchup. Really only fighting over Jace.
Doesn't look like there's that many cards Ben wants to bring in. Maybe the Python Needle to just name Stoneforge Mystic so he can activate it, or Jace. Again, Jetée Image probably coming in, and then maybe 1 Cure Glassgate Spinner. He's got a 3rd copy of Spell Pierce in his sideboard if he wants to choose to bring that in. But again, we're not really sure how great that is.
I'd rather be cutting my ones from my main deck than boarding in more.
Yeah. So possibilities, maybe Spell Pierce coming out, maybe Standstill, but not too many cards coming in for Ben's side. And again, I think that for Anthony's side, it really comes down to Stoneforge or no, I think, more or less.
I mean, we saw, normally in this kind of a matchup, you'd want to board out cards like Forcible against a deck like Esper Stoneblade, but here, because Merfolk's just so vulnerable to the Mystics, you can't really take on any of your ways to fight it. So you're willing to pitch a card to make sure it does not resolve. As we saw in that game to great effect, Ben ripping that Forcible to really won him the game.
Yeah, that really changed the game. And looks like Anthony's mulliganing here to 6. Ben's fine with his 7. So, you know, Ben's on the draw play this turn. Again, the fact that it comes down to Stoneforge or no, more or less, mulligans aren't necessarily that bad. Again, all he needs is the one copy of Stoneforge.
The problem, though, is, I mean, Merfolk does have Dazes and Wastelands,
Yeah.
so it punishes these mana-light hands that you sometimes have to keep when you mulligan. Looks like Anthony might be going down to 5 here. I don't see a lot of lands in those 6 cards.
And again, mana denial is one of the main ways Esper Stoneblade loses in this format. And a deck like Merfolk, you know, with 4 copies of Wasteland, and then even cards like Daze that can really control some of the early plays that Stoneforge has, can really be effective. So it looks like Anthony is considering mulliganing now to 5.
From what I can see here, it looks like he basically, there's just an island and a Brainstorm.
Yeah.
If that Brainstorm bricks, he's locked.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
game's just over.
so
Wow, keeping his hand.
keep.
And main facing the Brainstorm so does not get dazed. And Caracas and nothing. This is going to be a long, and that's the Stoneforge Mystic, which it actually could be.
He does have the Stoneforge in his hand, so it's pretty good for him. I mean,
he needs that to resolve. He needs mostly for the shuffle effect more than anything.
He needs the shuffle effect here.
Well, actually, the Batter's Go probably more than the shuffle effect. Let's be honest, but shuffle effect is certainly also nice.
So Caracas is going to come down here. He has a Vindicate too. So
crossing his fingers. No days, no force, please.
Nope.
And none there.
And again, Ben does have the Standstill in his hand. He went turn 1 Aether Vial. He's got turn 2 Standstill, but it looks like Stoneforge might be able to trump this play.
Anthony moving the Jit to the top. That does not make a lot of sense here. I think you have the Batter's Skull this spot.
So it looks like he's thinking about it, not sure. Looks like it's between Batterskull and Jete. Probably going for the Batterskull, although again, with the Geist, maybe he's just thinking that turn 3 Geist, turn 4 Jete could lock up this game. But again, he doesn't even have a 3rd mana.
Right.
So again,
that
the safer play,
ambitious.
The safer play is probably just Batterskull. But again, if Ben is able to Wasteland the Caracas and Anthony bricks on a land, Ben's right back in the driver's seat.
Yep.
Oh, it looks like he does have a Wasteland.
He's going to wasteland that Caracas.
Just drew a Wasteland.
And no white, and just hope Anthony doesn't have another white mana.
Oh, so he actually had a Wasteland and a Pithing Needle. So he's pretty situated pretty good against the Stoneforge right here.
I kind of like that combination. I like wasting the Caracas here, and I like just Pithing Needle and the Stoneforge Mystic.
So plays Needle first. It'd be interesting if he just, I guess, playing around Daze.
Yep.
But I think I probably would have just played the Needle first before playing the land even. Just not give away any information. Unlikely to see a Daze anyway. Even if he does Daze, it's still pretty good for you because then you could just waste on the Caracas.
Right, and maybe you bait Anthony into using a Forcible there.
Yeah. So attack for 1. Pithing Needle name is the Pithing Needle named Stoneforge Mystic, I'm assuming?
He tapped the Stoneforge. He showed us that one. So then we see a Curse Catcher jumping into play at the end of turn. Ben looking great in this game right now.
Yeah. Anthony whiffed on a land, and Ben does have a 2nd Wasteland, so Anthony needs his draw to be a sack land or a basic, basically.
And if he gets a fetch, he's so mana light that he's going to have to probably get a duel off of a fetch.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to be disciplined and get a single color land.
And here comes Standstill. So, pretty ideal board for Ben right here. So there is a fetch, but again...
It has to get a dual land because it can't get planes. And we need that white mana for that Batterskull to come into play.
But the Needle on the Stoneforge is not going to happen.
Oh, right. The Needle is resolved.
He has a Vindicate, so he might be able to get to a point where he can try to Vindicate. But again, there's a Curse Catcher in play. We know that Ben has a Wasteland, so it's going to be pretty tough for Anthony to try to navigate through this board. Not to mention the fact that Ben will eventually be able to just draw 3 cards off a Standstill.
Yep. Right here, it looks like.
Looks like we might be going for a Scrubland or a Tundra. Here, there's a Scrubland. Now, what do you think he's casting main phase? Can't cast the Vindicate, can't activate Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is here. I mean, probably the Inquisition, I guess.
Inquisition, maybe?
Let him draw 3 and then take... Not while the vial's tapped, take a Lord.
Okay.
Does make some sense here.
Anthony's going to be not very pleased to see a 2nd Wasteland in Ben's hand, though.
Yeah, not at all.
Putting him that much further back. Not exactly locked, so to speak, but in a pretty rough spot.
You can see from his body language, he knows he's in
Anthony
trouble.
looks pretty happy right now. Very pleased with the board state. Like he's taking the SATs.
He should maybe time to use his phone a friend.
Yeah.
Or tagging a teammate. See if Christian Calcano's in the wings. Ben might not even notice. Just distract Ben, look over his shoulder, and just sub in Calcano here.
I don't think even Christian Calcano could pull this game
I
out.
agree with that.
Although, here we go. Inquisition breaks the standstill. Ben
Only
draws
play he had
3 cards
available to him. He
first.
had to do this. It just works out. It's unfortunate.
Wow,
for him.
draws a Force of Will, Daze, and a Silvergill Adept.
I would just let this resolve. You do have a Rejury, I guess. Maybe just forcible it.
I would probably just let it resolve. Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen? Anthony might just scoop once he sees the Wasteland.
Yep.
I think that's what he's considering. But, yeah.
He does. Yep.
Tough spot. I mean, Ben had the ideal draw. Again, turn 1 Aether Vial, turn 2 Standstill. Anthony did have the Stoneforge Mystic, but Ben not only had the Wasteland, but he had the Kneel as well.
Yeah, to really push that one ahead.
Anthony had a mulligan there. It was a tough keep. You know, again, if he bricks on land there, he did draw land, and unfortunately it was a Caracas, so it was vulnerable to Wasteland, and he didn't even have a second land. It was just the Caracas. So pretty tough keep there, but again, I think he decided, you know, I'm just going to try to be a little more aggressive.
Play. Like, it's pretty hard to go to 5. I mean, I think that's
6 on the play with the Brainstorm, an island, and it was a basic land too. It wasn't like a Tundra.
Right.
So a basic island and the Stoneforge.
Yep.